Welcome to the Parkinson's podcast Unfiltered with hosts Heather Kennedy and Kat Hill, brought to you by the Davis-Phinney Foundation. Heather is originally from New York and was diagnosed with young onset Parkinson's in 2011 when she was 40. Kat is originally from a small town in California and was diagnosed in 2015 when she was 48. Heather and Kat have been friends since they met at the World Parkinson Congress in 2019. In each episode, Heather and Kat dive deep into the raw emotions and realities of life with Parkinson's.
Well, hello, Heather.
Kat Hill, where have you been all my life?
I have missed you, my friend. We've got to do this more often.
You miss me even though I'm a pain in the butt?
I see what you did there, friend. I see what you did there.
I'm giving a little foreshadowing for the topic we might want to cover today.
Indeed. I hope it's not too painful for you.
Pain, I'll say it again. Will you terminate?
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I have been not in a good way surprised by how much pain there can be in Parkinson's. I don't know. How about you, friend?
I was so cocky in the early years. Like, I've got this, folks. Look, work out. It'll be fine. Eat right. Get your sleep. Now I'm like, what is sleep? And when will the beatings subside? So yeah, there's a lot of pain that was unexpected, especially with the spinal problems and the dystonia, the involuntary muscle contractions.
Yeah, it feels almost sometimes like the muscles are fighting each other. That's how I describe it. Like they're just at odds with one another. I was pretty surprised. You know, my dad had Parkinson's, Heather, and he didn't have pain with his Parkinson's. He was painful after a fall, of course, where there was injury. But, you know, he was diagnosed in his mid-70s. So he had a really different experience than I've been experiencing in my 40s and 50s.
And also each generation has a different version of how they report their pain.
Indeed. And
culture.
And even in our own culture, our Western culture, how we evaluate and treat pain. Even in my clinical experience, the pendulum, when I was training, pain is what a patient tells you it is. And that we historically, at that point, when I was training in the 90s, we were under-treating pain. And so as clinicians, we were really taught that we needed to be really aggressive and honor what patients were saying. And of course, now the pendulum is swinging and saying, whoa, we've got to be careful with these powerful narcotics. They're leading to a lot of addiction. We have been misusing them. We've been misled by drug manufacturing companies that these are safe medicines. And so now it's really different. And I know you've had some experiences with some of your acute pain issues, Heather, in terms of how those have been treated and poorly managed even at times.
I was surprised when at the height of my back injury / dysfunction, when I didn't know this, but I'd slipped some discs and there were bulging discs and there were things like tumors on my back. Nobody wants to hear about your pain, but that's what it was. And I went to a pain doctor, pain specialist, and he advised me to meditate.
And I think it gets complex for clinicians, in fairness, because we're getting mixed messages. And I say I am not a pain specialist. I'm not a neurologist. But when I was a practicing nurse midwife, the message was that we needed to honor what people said. And then suddenly we couldn't give the medicines that we were used to giving. So when you don't have a severed artery and you have this chronic movement disorder, which can cause pain, what do we do with that? So I'd love to talk about our personal strategies because I think we've learned some things. You know, I'm sad that we had to, but I think we're a little more weathered for the experience. But what have you learned?
About pain specifically?
Yeah, about your pain and your journey with your back injury.
It is isolating.
Yeah.
It others you because you can be in a beautiful setting with a bunch of people that are just the best, like your best friends in a great situation, you're having a wonderful time, or you should be, then you shame yourself for having to focus on the pain if it's acute. And if it's chronic, and depending on the inflammatory aspects, or is it neuropathic, is it acute? There's all these different levels to pain. Excuse this, you're gonna have to bleep this out. That 1 to 10 is some bullshit.
Well, it's 1 to 10, but everybody's 1 to 10 is different. And that was developed in a time where we were trying to learn how patients rated their own pain, when we wanted to try to listen better. And part of what I found is managing pain with laboring women is that their pain was bad now when they were in early labor, but man, their 10 got to be really different by the time they were near delivery, right? So it changes, and depending on what kind of pain we're having. So I agree with you in that isolation piece. I also tend to isolate if I'm painful. I don't want to be around my social network. I don't want to talk about it particularly because...
Like animals.
Yeah.
Animals are sick. They go under the bed and they curl up, like the cat will go hide, or...
Exactly.
An animal is dying, they'll go into the woods, they'll go away.
I grew up having migraine headaches, and I had them very young. I was around 6 or 7 when I was first diagnosed, which is unusual because I hadn't gone through puberty yet. And I didn't know that, but I learned that. And so as I've been experiencing increasing amounts of dystonia in my neck called cervical dystonia, which is not my cervix.
Yeah, not that one.
I would take that out. I don't need that anymore.
Everyone's like, that's a lot of information. I'm like,
I know. When this coming from a midwife, they think, oh, I'm talking about the cervix. No, I'm talking about my neck. But I've had increasing amounts of headaches, and the tools that I would use to manage my other headaches weren't working to manage these headaches. And then trying so hard to stay away from altering my mood with medicines or trying to avoid more medicines, it gets to be difficult. It gets to be a juggling act. So do I isolate myself and stay on the couch and try to keep my mind and my psyche focused on the things I'm grateful for? I'm very grateful to have a couch. I'm very grateful to have this comfortable pillow. I'm grateful to have my dog here beside me, but I'm really sad because I'm missing my friends. I don't feel well enough to go to boxing. I feel worse if I'm up longer in the day. And that week after week gets isolating. It also gets depressing. Pain, you don't have pain, you're not really alive. And there's this rare disorder, I think it's called CIP, which is congenital insensitivity to pain.
Yes, CIP.
And you wrote about this, didn't you?
I did. I can never remember the name of it, CIP, for some reason, but the inability to feel pain sounds wonderful.
Right.
But guess what? They die younger.
Right.
Deaths. It turns out that the trigger of pain, or that little light that goes off, like the light in your car when there's something wrong with the engine, is to be managed and is to be given attention, which leads me to my next thing. What we really need when we're in a lot of pain is attention to the pain.
So pain is a physiologic response, can be a physiologic response or a warning, right? My foot is too hot. Maybe I should move it away from the fire. Right?
You pull your hand back and you'd be injured.
Right. So if we don't have that checks and balance, or if our engine light doesn't go on for these folks with this very rare but interesting disease, you could see how they might die young. They don't have that feedback loop.
Speaking of dying, like your crops and your dog and your truck, there are 7,000 country songs with pain in the lyrics.
It's pretty universal, no matter what y'all's accent is.
Yes, that's so true. Who doesn't experience pain? Pain is a given. And I'm here to tell you that there is no escaping pain. Like, no matter how hedonistic you are, how much money you have, no matter how much everyone hurts, everyone suffers. Everyone hurts, good song. Love hurts, pain.
Yeah, and that's not Love Hurts isn't a particularly country song. Let's just mention that. There are other genres of music that talk about pain.
Rock has about 9,000 songs with pain in it, but that's mostly death metal. My favorite one of them all. But back to the seriousness, we've also done a lot of studies on diversity and how different people are perceived differently. For example, the wailing that you might hear when in certain cultures, the wailing of pain might be looked at as dramatic in cultures that are more stoic or more buttoned up. In fact, it's not. It's just the way that they're expressing this pain. It's like a song, a mourning. It's a group activity.
And I had the honor of tending to women of sometimes diverse backgrounds and different cultures. And indeed, they managed it differently. And even talking about pain in some cultures is less acceptable. So even in asking the question, one can be uncomfortable with it. So there's those that don't talk about it, that are brought up to not show it, that it's not strong to show that you're in pain, all the way over to those cultures that wail or really have an expressive way of showing it. And there can be judgments around that. And I think growing up, I didn't want to call a lot of attention to myself. And it felt like complaining if I was talking about pain. We can come back to our previous discussions in that power of reaction. Part of what I try to do is that I may accept that I'm having a day with more pain. There is pain again today. The choice that I have there is where can I keep my brain? Do I want to react to that and get upset about it? And by getting upset, that I'm activating this whole parasympathetic nervous system, right? And we've talked about how that can trigger more symptoms. Then I shake more. And when I shake more, then my neck hurts more. And then I have more pain. And then I'm also scared and I'm lonely.
Right.
It also activates more of those. So it can be a cycle. And
what tools have you collected to alleviate suffering?
There we go. And that's, I think, where we have some power. We cannot sit here. Gosh, I wish we could sit here and say, okay, we have the fix for all pain.
I want a new drug.
I want the magic wand. That's what I'm after. Or the magic fairy dust, or maybe both for different, acute and chronic, maybe. So, I think what I've learned is that getting upset doesn't help my pain. And yet getting upset and letting go can.
Precisely. Let yourself feel it instead of blocking it. This goes for all emotions, for all feelings or things that arise. Let's say pain is rising, it's intense. You will start breathing naturally, probably. The 2 inhales, the pause, the exhale through the mouth. I had somebody do that with me. Like you used to breathe with people when you were helping them get
all the time. And it works with all pain. When Ken broke his ankle and was really under-medicated, I did the same kind of coaching that I would do with people in labor. Let's focus on now.
Pain.
Pardon me?
My hair's being a pain.
That's a different kind of pain.
I'm just kidding.
And
here's why people get flooded. I bring that up as a joke about Ken is breaking his ankle, extreme pain, breaking fingers, whatever. And you have people that say, oh, what a pain. It's overused. There are all these jokes about it. And people will say, oh, push, just be strong, be a man.
Put yourself together.
Yeah. And I feel like saying it has nothing to do with that.
Right. And yet we've had a culture, Heather. I'm a little older than you are, but in general, we grew up about the same time, where if you had pain, there's Tylenol, there's ibuprofen, there's all of these drugs. You have pain. Pain equates to bad. We must get rid of it. Instead of, pain is universal. Let's talk about how we get through it and manage it rather than get rid of it. Because I think if we all get the honor of growing old, we are likely to have increasing amounts of pain.
That is so important. Kat, I'm going to repeat kind of what you just said because it's so important to note. We can't just throw out the big guns right away. You don't need to go nuclear on the pain at first. You try acupuncture. You try alternative methods. You try things that you can afford that are in your resource bank.
I'm just going to say.
So I just want to drop a couple of resources. For example, when I first started having back pain, I did see a chiropractor, an acupuncturist. I tried to do certain stretches. I went to all kinds of therapies. I did craniosacral work. I did body talk, all kinds of things. I mean, I really did exhaust the toolbox. And pretty soon, as the pain grew, I need bigger guns. And I don't like taking painkillers.
Yeah.
They're horrible. They stop you up. You can't digest things. Nobody wants to be, no one in Parkinson's needs any more of that. Stop, slowing the digestion.
And Heather, we're privileged. We have
Exactly.
resources to do that. Those are expensive tools. Some insurances cover parts of those things. I know for me, I would love to get a massage every other day.
Often out of pocket.
It is out of pocket. I can't afford to do that. And I know and I feel blessed that I have some resources.
Yes.
But I've learned tools, right? I have roller balls that I put against the wall so I can really dig into my shoulders. I have things that I lay on.
Yes.
Yeah, there's the motorized like percussion guns that you could put that really get to deep tissue.
Back to all this stuff, though, seriously, in all seriousness, to handle pain, especially chronic pain. Pain changes people. We are changed by it.
We are changed by
pain
it.
and not have it leak onto others, whether it's emotional or physical or whatever, it's hard. That's why we isolate. We don't want to affect others. We don't want to impact our loved ones negatively or make them hurt. They always say misery loves company, AKA, pain. However, what we're mostly talking about is physical pain. Let's talk a little bit about the psychic or mental or emotional pain, such as grief and loss, or the pain from the isolation, or the pain of being othered, of somebody looking at you and thinking, why can't you just brush her hair? Look at her, she's a mess. And you're thinking, I'm on a bed, yay! Because you've been in so much pain. They can't see your pain.
It's complicated, Heather. And I think the longer that we live and manage pain and Parkinson's, and because I don't want to automatically put the two together, because my pain is mostly the dystonia too. But the longer that I live with this, the smaller my world becomes, and I am more selective about who I want to talk about pain with. Ken can usually tell by walking in the room by what my eyes are doing.
Right.
About how I'm hurting. But I don't even talk a lot about it with him. I'll answer a question honestly if he asks. Obviously, if I'm not getting off the couch and I need to lay down a lot, he knows my neck is hurting. But I can still have joy and peace and gratitude and friendship even from the couch. Thank goodness for cell phones. Pardon me?
In the couch.
In the couch. On the couch.
There are many ways to manage pain. Also, naturally, they say indica or sativa or various strains of CBD or all kinds of different things. However, not every state has those, and that's expensive too, and that's out of pocket.
I was just going to say that I think we're going to learn a lot more as some of these complementary therapies are more widely available, but there isn't a lot of great data yet. And so it's hard. Yeah, pressure points.
Right, pressure points.
Heather and I are both automatically squeezing. I forget what it's called. There's a pressure point.
Letter 21 is here.
Yeah.
It's hard doing yourself though.
Yeah, this one though works. I've used this since I was a little girl. You can sometimes Google some of those. How can you do some self-soothing?
Breathing. It's really helpful.
I was going to say that too, that some people, when they have pain, they tend to hold their breath, and that can really aggravate pain, right? We need oxygen to breathe deeply and slowly through things. In general, I have found that deep, slow breathing helps me calm myself, helps me focus. Even just counting my breaths helps. And I used to like to tell patients that they'd come, what kind of breathing do I need to learn for labor? I said, well, you have been doing a really good job breathing up until now. And so I think we should talk about how to take you through labor with what you know.
I like the idea of practicing it for labor, but more importantly, for the immediate talk of Parkinson's, I did want to mention when my wearing off time is intense, when I have off times, my breathing becomes very difficult. I can barely speak. And I have more off times than on times lately, which is why I'm so dyskinetic right now. I've taken a lot of meds to be able to meet you today at a place where I'm actually verbal, because I can't breathe. I have to talk between breaths. And I sound really intense because I have to talk between each breath. What is that called? I don't know. But you have to get everything out between the breath because it's like a little kid drinking milk. They forget they can breathe through their nose.
It's the multitasking part that becomes less automatic. So our automatic functions get more difficult. And so your body's having more trouble breathing, remembering to breathe, and that your body can talk and breathe at the same time. It forgets how to do that some, Heather. And that's that rushed speech. It does have a word, but you did a good job saying, though, explaining what that feels like. And in things like improv, or if you sing choir or learn how to really get that big full breath in to help your voice, those are all really helpful things to learn for all of us, but it becomes less easy.
They have you touch, like the inhale flattens the tummy.
Yep.
And then you'll notice operatic singers, they're not sucking their gut in, they're letting it sort of out.
Right.
Power of the whoosh.
What we're saying is we need to learn opera, right?
Yes.
That will be the solution.
Oh my gosh, that's the answer.
But we digress.
There are healers with energetic healing techniques that cannot be explained very well. For example, I don't understand Reiki. I think it works for me. I don't understand body talk or craniosacral methodology. Do I need to understand it? I know that it works. For me. You got to find it.
And I think for those of you that are maybe listening to us and that have pain and don't feel like you have been seen or heard, we see you. We see you and we hear you and we
believe you.
And we believe you. And it is possible to both have chronic pain and find joy.
Yes.
And I feel great joy connecting with you today, Heather.
Likewise. And you alleviate pain. Seeing Cat Hill lightens my load. Thinking of the Davis Phinney Foundation as a support system does the same. When you know that there is help on the way or resources around, you're a lot less anxious when you do experience pain, because it can feel like you're going to die. Your mind can go into catastrophic thinking, and that causes your breathing to go shallower because you're in fight or flight mode, right? And you start to ramp up. That snowball effect. The attention goes all to the pain. You become very sort of myopic, self-absorbed, because that's what pain is. Which is why when someone's being a complete jerk, I go, they must be in pain. There's my answer, right?
Right. And I'm going to go back to the saying, the power in the pause. One could think, God, what an asshole. I'm here living my life and shame on them and have a reaction to it. Or you can go to that space. Wow, they must be carrying a lot and have compassion, because compassion doesn't activate my sympathetic nervous system. I'm only doing a disservice to myself getting worked up over it.
One thing I've noticed that I do not like, and I will not stand for, is when someone tries to call us mentally ill when they don't agree with how we're handling our pain. It is a stigma that is both insulting to people with mental illnesses and people with neurological diseases, which have that capacity. Because we spend a lot of time wondering if we're okay. We don't need some armchair psychologist who's self-appointed to diagnose our condition based on looking from the outside. They have no idea what we're experiencing.
I hear you saying, Heather, that it helps you to decide what you're going to react to and what you're not, and writing off a lot of the stuff that feels like fluff and picking and choosing a little bit about what you're going to engage with. I think even those hearing us that don't have pain, thinking about ways to keep yourself level and that power in the pause of how we react. I think it's a powerful tool, whether you have I think just being human, learning how to pause and catch one's reactions can save perhaps ourselves a lot of pain in the long run. I wished I would have learned it earlier.
And you've helped me see that it's not usually personal. So if someone does come at me that way now, what I think is, wow, I wonder what's going on with them. Like to diagnose someone or to come at someone because you don't agree with them or they didn't agree with you or you feel rejected by them or for whatever reason, right, is a whole nother part of which causes more pain potentially. You can just say, this isn't really about me. You know, I hope that person is okay and not get angry.
That's it. That's
Not be
it.
angry.
Or making a story about something that I did wrong, or that
Right.
I am less, or that I did something to cause that reaction.
Right.
And all the energy it takes for me to tell myself that whole story. The story never is like, oh, I added to somebody's life today. It was like, oh, they hate me. My teeth
Yeah,
are
what did
crooked.
I
My
do?
hair looks on fire. I'm sure they think I'm drunk, and I just have Parkinson's stinging, and I'm already having a bad day.
Right.
And right, that's my own,
Right.
but I created that. That doesn't help me. That doesn't serve me. So I thank you for saying I helped you, friend, because really we just all show up and try to do our best, right?
What else can we do? People will say, you're such a hero or you're an inspiration. I'm like, no, I'm surviving.
No,
I'm
but you
figuring it
are,
out as I
friend.
go along and reporting what I've noticed in others and myself that works and it doesn't work.
Yeah,
I just
well, you
share.
inspire me. You inspire me to be a better human, and to keep the dialogue going even when it's a tough day.
Well, I will say this. Speaking of different people having different feelings about pain, there's this whole thing that I have in my Spotify. It's called Get on Your Knees, and it's about like pain. That's cheekiness. I don't want anything to do with that stuff. You know, I don't want anything to do. I do not think you need to cross the pain. There was a study being done by people who were reporting feeling pleasure from pain or feeling pleasure from causing pain. Not going to go Machiavellian on you here, but it's sometimes the wires get crossed, and that's never good either. So having a healthy relationship to pain as an alarm signal for something that needs to be looked at in the body is the answer. And don't forget, when you're getting checked for Parkinson's or whatever, MS or whatever it is that you're dealing with neurologically, don't forget you have all these other systems to be checked as well. Don't neglect like your dentist or so on and so forth.
It's funny. My dentist says that my Parkinson's has been really good for my teeth because I actually go to my appointments now. Like I used to make the cleanings and I'm like, oh, I can't go. I got, somebody's in labor. I can't go. I can't take off a clinic day or whatever.
Teeth come last, right?
Yeah.
But how about, do you have trouble sitting still in a chair? Sometimes I do.
Sometimes.
Drop me down.
The hygienist, though, is really patient, and my dentist knows. So I feel mostly compassion from them. And I notice it more myself. Again, my storyline goes to, it must be really difficult for them to deal with me because I have Parkinson's and shame on me and blah, 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 blah. All the pain. There's my story, right?
I'm all over the place, right?
When in their minds, it's like, oh yeah, I noticed it one time or whatever, right? So.
Wait, which brings me to how to close the conversation about pain.
Yeah.
We're each in our own relationship and conversation with pain. And we think or assume that we're all sort of mirrors and that people can sort of, understand with a little bit of explanation, but the conversations are hard. Finding words for pain, finding dialogue and language to express it is very difficult. We're not talking just on site, we're talking what's happening within. So to go ahead and explore what that means for you and how to talk best with your immediate surrounding, important, special people.
Care team and your support.
So they know it's not them.
Right.
Yeah. And then you can sort of say, I'm at a level today that I'm not capable of managing. Could you help me out with this or that? That is what I want to leave people with. So don't forget to communicate it because people don't know.
And it's an ongoing relationship with pain that I have. And I am trying to learn what my goals are with managing a chronic painful thing. And it's ongoing and I'm continuing to learn. And I'm trying to remember to, even if I'm going into the neurologist on a good day, to remember that I want to talk about it. Like, are there some tools when I'm not having such a good day? These are the things I'm doing. Do you have any other thoughts? My primary, my massage therapist, my, all the things. Are there exercises from, PT or OT that I can be doing to minimize what I'm doing with these muscles? So,
right. In a culture that might not understand or that might be intolerant of pain.
Correct. So I don't think we solved it, Heather. I think what it helps me to know is that I'm not alone in this, and that helps a lot. So thank you, friend. Thanks for showing up today for me
and thank you
for our listeners.
And thank you for making life a lot less painful.
Bless you. Love you, friend.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Parkinson's podcast Unfiltered with Heather Kennedy and Kat Hill. For more information about the Davis-Phinney Foundation and to learn about educational offerings and community events for people affected by Parkinson's, please visit davisfinneyfoundation.org or dpf.org. This podcast includes information about Parkinson's and insights from our Parkinson's community. It is not intended as a substitute for treatment advice from your own medical providers.